Joining us now live is Cheri Bustos. She is a former Illinois Congresswoman and a current political consultant. Thanks for being with us once again. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Dana. Good morning.
Good morning. Okay, first, we got to talk about last night. Your colleague and former mentor, Tim Walz, stealing the show, I think you could say. He gave a speech that was short and sweet, just 20 minutes. It seemed very, very heartfelt, that amazing reaction from his family, his wife and children, his son in particular. What did you think?
Well, first of all, brevity is always appreciated when it comes to political speeches. I come from a family where my wedding was 13 minutes and my dad thought that was a little bit long. Brevity is great. And I guess two things really stick out. His line about minding your own business, but also being great to your neighbor. And I think when you look at that, those are truly Midwestern values. Those are values that anybody watching that speech last night would go, yeah, that's how we ought to do things. I told you yesterday, what you see is what you get with Tim Walz, and so what you saw for those 20 minutes last night is what you're going to see ahead during the rest of this campaign, these 70-plus days, and then I hope for the next 4 and then even 8 years from a guy like who's a true Midwesterner, who talks about small towns. I live in Galena, Illinois, population 3,500, so it is very much appreciated that these smaller towns are not being overlooked by Democrats, where we have struggled politically, and we need to make sure that we're showing up, we're asking for people's votes, and that they can relate to the Democrats who are at the top of the ticket.
I'm going to go beyond this next question so we can keep the prompter right there, but I want to ask a follow-up, and that is, you're really preaching to the choir, if you will, when you are talking and addressing the DNC and all of the delegates there. What does the Harris-Walz ticket need to do to carry that message beyond the convention and really get it to maybe the undecided voters out there, those who say, I'm not going to vote at all?
Dana, that is the question that needs to be asked and needs to be answered every one of these days until the election, the first week of November. And really, I think Oprah Winfrey laid it out. She talked beyond just the thousands of people who are at the United Center. She talked about independents and swing voters and the people who have not yet made up their minds on how they're going to vote in November. And that is truly what we have to go after. There are 7 swing states. And in those 7 swing states, you have a handful of still swing voters. And that is who Kamala Harris and Tim Walz need to talk to every single day. I sent a text to Tim Walz just after it was announced that he was the vice presidential nominee. And I said, show up in those VFW halls, show up at the third shift UAW line that is building combines, show up in the towns of 25,000 people or fewer. And talk to people about what you do best, which is pay attention to them, listen to them, and that the next 4 years of a Harris-Walz administration is not going to ignore those people. So they will be top of mind, not back of mind.
All right. Really quickly, Adam Kinzinger, former Republican congressman speaking tonight. He is speaking, if you will, to the opposing team, right? The DNC. What will you be looking for him to say?
Well, one other thing worth noting about Adam Kinzinger, he and I shared Rockford together. I represented about 1/3 of the city of Rockford. He represented about 2/3 of it. So we worked very closely together. What I'll tell you about Adam, he's a true conservative, but he also worked across the aisle very well when it came to delivering for the congressional district that he represented. And also, he has risen above party politics in that he understands that when a guy like Donald Trump called for an insurrection and his followers listened to that and stormed the Capitol on January 6th of 2021, that was a step too far for Adam Kinzinger, and he's going to put his country above his party. And I think it's very brave of him to show up tonight at the Democratic National Convention, and I have a great deal of admiration for him. He is my friend, and I'm proud of what he's doing.
And there's been some personal cost to him as well. But moving on, the DNC does a lot to drum up excitement, as I just mentioned, right? Preaching to the choir, getting everyone rallied, especially for the race. But do you expect that excitement to trickle down the ballot to congressional and even local races?
Well, look, it has to trickle down if Kamala Harris and Tim Walz want to execute on what they're talking about. If the Democrats don't win back the House, and if Democrats lose the Senate, all of this is really, really tough to accomplish. And if everybody, all your viewers and the American public understand the politics in Washington, D.C., that you can't execute without having the votes out of the House and the Senate. So that has to happen. I ran the political arm of House Democrats, the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, in the 2020 cycle. We were able to hold on to the majority, but it was then a very fragile Democratic majority. And right now, Republicans barely have a majority in the House. So it is winnable, but voters have to make sure that if they're going to start at the top of the ticket with Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, I hope that they will go down and take a look at the great candidates that we have running all over this country. And in Illinois, we have a wonderful Democratic congressional delegation, and I hope those votes will continue to go down ballot, and that we have a great November.
All right, Cheri Bustos, political consultant and former Illinois Congresswoman. Thank you so much once again for being with us.
Thank you,
morning.
Dana.